Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you learn to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Let's get started. I wanted to take just a quick moment to thank you all who continually support and listen to James Miller Lifeology. I have been so blessed and honored by your continual support. I wanted to make sure that you don't miss out on anything exciting that's happening over here. So make sure you sign up for my free newsletter at jamesmillerlifeology.com. I have a great show for you today. I'm going to help you separate between your needs and your wants. I'll also be interviewing Dr. Tranquility, Lydia, who is a mental health expert specializing in date therapy. Her research-based mind-body protocol helps connect you with your true and honest criteria for your partner or ideal mate. For more information about Dr. Tranquility and her date therapy, please visit datetherapy.com. I have some exciting news. Did you know that I'm on the radio 3 times a week? You may hear me on the same station on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m., Fridays at 9:30 a.m., and Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. You may also hear me anytime on iHeartRadio as well as on all the other major podcasting platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and many others. Simply search for the show name, James Miller Lifeology. Are you struggling today to find your purpose? Has mediocrity set in and you can't imagine doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Are your relationships struggling or you aren't sure how to make long-lasting changes in your life? Then today, contact me, James Miller. I will help you recognize the areas in your life that are going really well, and then we'll look at the areas in which you are struggling. We will create actionable solutions to help you create long-lasting changes in your life. You don't have to do this alone. Go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page, Work with James. Fill out the form, and it will be sent directly to me. Don't let another day go by without finding your way. Your change can start today. Once again, go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page, Work with James. Fill out that form to get started today. Needs versus wants. Often we don't realize that we use those words interchangeably. If you were to sit back and record your conversations throughout the day, you'd probably use those words incorrectly. What I mean by that is this. Those words really define the core value that you have versus something that is not as important. When you think about it, with other words, we say the same thing. I hate that. I can't live without that. I'd die if that happened to me. Those are what's called hyperbole, a fancy way to basically say it's a big exaggeration. But when it comes back to quantifying or measuring your need versus want, it's really important to be aware of that. When you're trying to be clear about something or really trying to get direction, it's important that you separate between your needs versus wants. Another way to look at the need is to essentially say, what is a deal breaker for me? What is it that I can live with? And what are some things that at the end of the day don't really matter to me as much? When you can start to separate between your need versus want, actually writing it down, you'll find that what you really thought was a need actually is probably a want. And that can mean anything from your job to relationships to friendships to finances to health and wellness. Those are just a few examples of how the need versus wants really manifests itself. The more clear you are on what your true need is versus your want, the more successful you're going to be. Because if you lump those two things together, you are going to be disappointed. You're going to be living in an ideal world that's full of all these wants, but that's not really practical, nor is that the realistic world. You can get closer to an ideal world when you are really clear on what your needs are. Think of a funnel. At the very top of the funnel are going to be your needs and wants together. And then as that liquid pours down through that funnel, it sifts out all those wants until at the very bottom is what your core need is. Another way to look at that is this. The 80-20 principle is really used for business. And in business, it basically states that 20% of your population are going to be the ones who can make the decisions to influence the 80% of people. Many of the lay people look at the 80-20 principle in a slightly different way. They often say that a partner, a job, a church, a friendship, all of those categories will only be able to give you 80% of what you need, and the 20% is what usually people chase after. Unfortunately, many times we haven't really parsed out or separated between our need and our want, so then we link that 100% together. Once again, 80% is your need and 20% is your want, and because somebody or something doesn't give us that 100%, all of a sudden say it's not for us and we move on. When you think of it in that respect, 80% is really what your need is. That 20% is simply a want. When you can be really clear on separating between needs and wants, it's going to change your life significantly. There's things which are really important to you at one time, or rather you thought they were really big at one time, really aren't going to matter as much because that's probably in a want category and not in a need category. Think about this in all areas of your life: your spirituality, your health and wellness, your finances, your friendships, your relationships, your family, your downtime, your hobbies, your vacations. All of those things are so important because when you can really ask yourself, is this a need or a want? You're going to realize that what truly matters to you at the core of who you are is that need, and everything else will just fall away. So today, really be mindful of that. Listen to the words you use to determine if you've fallen into the trap of confusing your want with your need. Did you know I have a YouTube channel? That's actually how Lifeology started. I have well over 155 episodes that I've created specifically for you. I do know that many people struggle with listening to a full 30-minute show. So these episodes are about 3 minutes long. Each episode will give you a practical tool or technique that you can practice daily to help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Simply go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, or go to YouTube and search for my name, James Miller Lifeology. My guest today is Dr. Tranquility. She is a mental health expert with a background in mind-body medicine from Harvard University's Mind-Body Institute, Columbia University's Rosenthal Center, and Botanical Medicine, as well as the British School of Complementary Medicine. She's gracious enough to talk with us today about date therapy, which is a mind-body protocol connecting you with your true ideal criteria for your partner or ideal mate. Welcome to my show, Dr. Tranquility.
Thank you, James. I'm so excited to be on Lifeology. It's going to be fun.
Thank you. You know, it's so funny. I was talking to some of my friends before the show, and they're like, oh my gosh, James, everyone's texting me saying, I can't wait to hear the show. So I can't wait to hear what this mind-body protocol is because I need to learn this as well, in true honesty.
Absolutely.
So it's great.
We all do.
Before we get started, how did you become known as Dr. Tranquility?
Wow. I know. I was going on The View.
Oh, okay.
Or it was just Preview, I think.
Sure.
Some New York news programs. And I needed a domain name. Mm-hmm. And back then, because we're going back a minute, not everyone had websites. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as it is today, where it's more important than your business card, quite frankly. Definitely. And I needed a domain, and I thought, well, doctor, relaxed. I was doing strictly anxiety relief. And not too much depression, but a teeny bit, mainly acute onset, anxiety, and little tweaks here and there. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, tranquility. That's what we're all hoping to. We want to find some peace and some tranquility. And then I thought, Dr. Tranquility. And at the time, everyone was like, oh, that's a ridiculous name. And now I have to run behind people like, I'm sorry, it's taken.
I love it.
Please, get off.
That is great. That's hysterical.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, then how did you transition from anxiety to dating or to relationships?
Well, it was really interesting. I had dating anxiety. No, I'm teasing. But it is one
we all do, I guess.
We all have a little bit.
Sure.
I do tend to be a little bit of a social phobe because as a practitioner, we control our space and our environment, right? So people come in, they leave on cue for us.
Yes, that's true.
And then you have to go out into the big, big world. And I started doing some more media, The View, and some bigger shows. And, you're walking out, you know how this is, James, and there's a massive set there. There's hundreds of human beings running around. I had a big argument just before I launched date therapy, originally with the boyfriend at the time, who's no longer in my life, clearly. And he was fussing. It turned out he had some other issues, and he was threatened by the fact that I was going out in front of millions of people, literally. And was trying to sabotage my mindset for the interview. And I just realized this whole thing is crazy. And I thought there has to be a better way to find more supportive people in life. And then also my girlfriends had been bothering me. They're like, okay, we don't need psych, but you are this mind-body expert, this hypnotic anesthesiologist on top of this, So can't you come up with a way that we can find? And I given my situation also, I thought, there's something.
Exactly. Isn't that neat how that happens? When a situation happens, it literally drops into your lap. And I look at you today, Dr. Tranquility, all over the world, speaking about date therapy. That's so cool.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it really is.
And timely. And it's interesting because what started to begin when I did my clinical trials, because I did send this whole little protocol through trials.
It's amazing.
I have about a 75% success rate in marriage of people that have been married now for more than a decade.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I'm above the national average.
Yes, you are.
And we're a little bit higher than that, but I find when you start throwing things out there too much, it can be a problem, so we'll just call it that, but it's actually a little bit better. And it started to help people get in touch with who they are, what they're looking for in a partner. Back in the day, this was prior to gay marriage being legalized.
Sure.
And so a lot of people were trying to fit into types of relationship. I probably shouldn't even say this on air, but I had a dear friend, and she had a colleague and one of her best friends, and he was involved with his partner, and they couldn't marry. And he was actually acquiring his paperwork. He was already had a green card or whatever. And so we all had to go to Vegas so that they could. And then when that part of the situation ended, it was, how does he shift his mindset back? So although date therapy can be very tongue-in-cheek, it's also a really interesting way as a practitioner to slide your patient population, people who may not want to come in and see a therapist.
Sure, exactly.
Come in for date therapy, right? Yeah. And then people who just want a one-off date, and they want to be okay with the fact that they don't want to settle down. I don't want a partner. I want a great relationship. And so perhaps they had a very religious upbringing. So, and they didn't feel the comfort level with that type of relationship.
Sure.
So it helps them to go out and have the great date. And then it helps the couples that are mates and who want to mate. And then listen to me. I'm coming out with, there is a team.
Yeah.
But I'm coming out with a DT squared, a DT2. And what that's about is couples who kind of want to kickstart again.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that because one of the things I was thinking about, because usually we think date therapy, we think of it, I would think, my understanding would be single people dating, wanting to get to know each other more. But I was going to ask you about that. Is it also really establishing the intimacy with couples already, or even partnered couples, I should say? Does it really talk about that intimacy factor as well as continuing the dating beyond perhaps the paperwork or the marriage or the ceremony?
Yes, it does. And when you're in alignment, and you know that your partner's in alignment, and there's been honesty and communication, this, then that will continue. But sometimes we develop little bristles as it becomes comfortable, and it's just a sort of mental reset button.
Yeah.
I like to call it the oxytocin IV.
So some people may not know what oxytocin is. Oxytocin is that trust hormone that, if you hug someone longer than 20 seconds, all of a sudden it develops that sense of trust and that connection and that connectivity. And that's something that Dr. Tranquility is talking about. So that's something we can all give each other. But you're right, that is that oxytocin IV that some people really need to really connect on a really intimate level.
Right. Well, as life goes on, things occur. Children are born, children are adopted.
Sure. Priorities shift.
And or not, but work career takes off. And, meetings start to occur as you get more involved in your work. And it can be harder and harder. And then if date night becomes too ritualistic,
sure. Yeah.
It turns into a process rather than a practice. And so that's where date therapy kicks in also.
Nice. That's beautiful. So give us some examples of, let's say I came into your office. I said, Dr. Tranquility, I need some help here. What would be the experience for one of the people that would come to you? Okay.
Well, first of all, it's funny because this is one of the things that I had to work on getting past, in that it was a very personalized, specialized protocol in it for years. And although there are date therapists running around, I have trained professionals of therapists who utilize this protocol now and have over the last decade. Thank you. I was like, how do we, take this on a grand scale? And it took a bit. But one of the things that happens, whether you're Zooming with me
Okay.
And I like Zoom because it's HIPAA compliant. Skype is, but Zoom's my jam. Or you're in my office. We sit down and we just chat. Because I need to and want to have an understanding of who you are. And this way we can just communicate one-on-one. It's about 10 minutes. I ask you to fill out some paperwork. It is not, this date therapy in and of itself, unless it slides, is not a structured therapeutic model.
Sure, makes sense.
In the sense that it is not traditional and you are not in a psychotherapy session. You, if anything, are more akin to a hypnotherapeutic session. It's deeper than that. It has splashes of NLP and psych in it, but it is not structured in a traditional fashion. So we talk about some things you like, some things that you don't like. And then we go through the session. And at the end of the session, we have the same conversation. And it's so interesting to see pre and post paperwork.
Oh, that would be interesting, yeah.
And we review that together. And so a lot of that is done just prior, either in a phone call or in an initial Skype session, very short, quick one, or not Skype, excuse me, Zoom. And then we go from that phase into the actual. So when you're coming and you're working with me in the technically second session, we're all in. We've done a little bit of induction. We've gotten to know each other. You've taken a moment to write some things down. And then we're going from there and email them to me. And then we're going for there. We go all in. And then there's a slight tweak, which can be phone call or Zoom. Usually, if someone really wants to see me, then we'll see each other again. But usually we're like really one full session and done. So it's like 2 hours total with pre and post and the session, and you're out the door.
Wow. So so the change you said in the paperwork, actually, let me back up a second. What would be the difference? People who don't know, maybe really understand the concept of date therapy, even after you say this, what would be the difference between a matchmaker and what you do?
Aha, I can answer this.
Of course
I presented at iDate.
Okay, yeah.
For people who don't know, it's the dating industry, the behind-the-scenes industry, Google, Bing, and major sites. And we talked about PR and date therapy and protocols. And I'm not here to help you find your mate. I'm here to help you find yourself.
Yes.
In the mating process. So we may not conclude that work. You may choose to continue with me and turn it into a longer protocol. Or you may just want to get an understanding, because then you would take the information we glean and take it to the matchmaker.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Or take it online and swipe or not.
Whatever format.
Whatever you want to do there. But, to Match.coms, even to eHarmony, because how can you find what you're looking for if you don't know what your core criteria is?
Sure. And what would you say some of those things are? I mean, let me back up. Why do you think most people don't understand their core criteria?
I think we have a concept of ourselves that we like to live with. And the concept may have been molded. Now, we know this on many other worlds, but generally speaking, that concept gets molded as you walk through life. So mommy and daddy, friends, fraternity or sorority, brothers and sisters, religions, colleagues, whatever, whomever. And you start fitting in. Like that for you starts to mold and change, slide. And it's okay if all those things happen, but the beauty of date therapy is that it brings you back. So you'll figure out, okay, this is where I am. Now, this is me. How do I fit into this world around me in a way that I'm comfortable with?
That makes me think of the law of the group. For some of my listeners who don't know what that is, in psychology, a law of the group is essentially you become whatever the majority is of the group. So if you and I are gossipers, and we're going to attract all these gossipers, and we're going to be gossip even more. So whatever the similarities, somewhat similar traits are, becomes greater and greater until pretty soon that is now the new identifier, descriptor that is you, but it really wasn't you initially. It just became part of you.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah.
But most people don't know what that is, and so bringing us back. That's how I explain it to the world at large. When I first started and during the clinical trial process, one of the things that I realized is it was shifting behavior too radically. and I hadn't developed a component to help people to assimilate and co-create that new place.
Sure. Yeah. What are they going to do with all that
If you
change?
go all the way back, then now you're in a whole another space. It's way to the left or to another planet. And so with date therapy, once I did that, we found that it was a new component, a new way of tweaking. And as you go through processes and models and protocols, you evolve, just like I have become older in my relationships. And so what I'm looking for is a little bit different. And so DT squared, Date Therapy 2, has been developed now. And so people can work with that and really find a new way of relating with a long-term mate, long-term partner. And even today, and there are so many amazing ways to connect with people. Among them are, I'm sitting at the V Club in New York City, and the V Club is an amazing place that educates people on relationships.
That's beautiful.
And you can find them at vclub.com. And Jamie also at Jamie at thevclub.com, and she's always there to help. But there are all these amazing ways to utilize the date therapy protocol. And whether it's in a classroom, it's one-on-one, meeting new people once you've gone through the process. It's fantastic, and it can be very, very quick. And I've worked with people in London. I've worked with people in New York. I've worked with people bi-coastally, so you don't need to be in the room to make it all come together.
What would be one of the biggest barriers that most people would have in wanting to see someone like you to go through this dating protocol?
Anxiety about
I would think so.
Anxiety about what about the protocol initially, and then they meet me, and that's usually over.
Sure.
But they generally will call, and that tends to be allayed in that pre-call. That's why we have a pre-call, which I also encourage all people who date to do as well, because all relationships are dating in the very beginning.
Yes, they are.
And so it's important to have that moment where you connect before you go all in. It doesn't help a woman to be wearing stilettos and she's going hiking on her first date.
Oh, goodness. That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So, or man.
Sure.
So there's some variation thereof. So I talk about that a lot in my articles in Cupid's Pulse. But that tends to be the biggest, I would say, barriers, or I'm very comfortable with who I am, or so I think I am.
Sure.
I know I want something different, but am I ready to create a difference?
Sure.
And once they realize that you're not going from A to Z, that there were a whole lot of letters in between, and you can figure out where you fit and evolve. It's just that you now have new tools and new information for success.
Yes, and I like to think of to work smarter, not harder. The aspect of the more you know yourself, the more you can really avoid a lot of those pitfalls or things that you've done in the past. One of the things I really like to tell people is just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Because sometimes we just are like, oh, I can do this, I can date this person, I can date that person. Sure, you can, but without some of this insight, you are going to repeat the same patterns over and over again. So sometimes it's good just to slow down. And if you've continually done those same things in the past, maybe upon reflection, that's probably not getting you what you want.
Absolutely. That is very true.
Yeah.
And it's so it's just a good idea to relax into it and to enjoy yourself. And I think that's the biggest piece with date therapy. It helps you relax into who you are and what you want, and then you'll figure out, again, how to apply it, how to evolve from there.
Sure.
And it's quick.
Yes, and that's great. I'm sure a lot of people are going to really enjoy that. That is one of the things that I think many people kind of struggle with. It's just the whole aspect of, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. I'm always going to be single. I'm always going to be this or that. But the point is if you're truly invested in something, you're going to get a quicker return on it. So it's going to someone like you with your date therapy, your dating protocol as well. That's really going to help people break through whatever they don't know, because you don't know what you don't know, but you are going to be able to help them realize what is going on to be able to help them be successful, which is really, really exciting.
It is exciting. And, one of the big trends in dating for a while there, I don't know if it's still going on, was that people were actually hiring people to go online and answer their dating profiles.
Oh, really? Wait, so you'd outsource your dating profile?
Yeah, I learned this, as I'm part of iDate and some of these bigger conferences on the industry. And they, people, say on Wall Street, were hiring people to go online and to not so much tweak a protocol that they didn't approve of course, but to answer and set up their date.
Oh.
And so, yes, you can fly through things with ease, but successful mating and even successful fun dating, if you're really busy, this helps you to give you the tools to kind of cut through the stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And you're like, okay, I get this person. I really like you, but you're not someone I want to connect with quickly, and you're not someone I want to connect with long term.
Sure. Yeah. I totally understand that.
Or I love it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's been such a fantastic time having you on my show today. If my listeners would like to find out more information about you, work with you, learn all about date therapy, and really change their lives, where would they find this information online?
Datetherapy.com, Facebook, Date Therapy, or Lydia with a Y, Lydia, at drtranquility.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being a fantastic guest on my show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you, James.
I also want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in today. Please subscribe to this radio show through whichever portal you joined with us today, or please go to my website where you may sign up for my free newsletter, watch my YouTube episodes, read the articles I've written specifically for you, or you may enroll in the Lifeology Academy where you can take self-directed courses which will help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. If you'd like to personally work with me, be a guest on, or advertise on this show, simply visit jamesmillerlifeology.com. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms under the name James Miller Lifeology, except for Twitter, which is James M. Lifeology. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and I'll talk to you soon.
AM/FM 247, the best in talk and music all day and every day.